You can begin.
Very good.
Okay, Madam Chair.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 1st meeting of the Mamaroneck Zoning Board of Appeals. We have public hearings on 2 items, and we will start. So the first public hearing is case 2SP 2020-419 Mamaroneck Avenue for Roaster Cafe, a renewal of a special permit. Is the applicant here?
Madam Chair, I do not see the applicant.
All right, well, let's then, let us give the applicant a few minutes and we'll move on to the next application. The next application is, we'll delay that until hopefully the applicant will get here. The next public hearing then is 1U 2020 100 West Boston Post Road for a use variance at this point. Is the applicant here?
Madam Chair, the applicant is not present.
Okay, we haven't heard from this applicant since the August meeting. He was supposed to submit certain papers, certain applications to the planning board. That has not happened. So we're just going to adjourn this public hearing until we hear from the applicant. I just want to make it clear that we had closed the application for an area variance, and I think also the special permit, and back in June or May or something, and the applicant did originally give us the right to extend so we could consider it with the use application. So we will just be extending that 60-day period until we do make a decision and discuss the use variance. So just clearing up where we are on that. Okay, so
Madam Chair, would you like staff to send the applicant a letter requesting that they appear at the next meeting?
I guess what we'd like to have them either appear or let us know they're withdrawing their application.
Fair enough. Staff will draft the letter.
Yeah, my suggestion is that the letter say that if they don't appear at the next meeting, you will consider their application to be abandoned.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. That seems like a good idea. Okay, is the applicant from Roaster Cafe here yet?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, then I think what we'll do is we'll move on to the closed public hearings, and if the applicant shows up while we're still pursuing our agenda, we will open the public hearing. If the applicant does not show up, we'll just adjourn that to the next meeting. Okay, so the public hearings are closed, but may be reopened if the applicant, Roaster Cafe, shows up. Okay, so we've got several closed applications to discuss. So the first one is 5A 2020 600 Lorraine Street. Does anyone want to discuss, have a comment, have some thoughts? I know we started discussing it last week. We didn't get, not last week, but at the last meeting, we didn't come to any conclusion or have a tentative vote. So we need to do something today. Any thoughts, discussion, points, comments?
I guess I'll start off. I've given some thought to this matter, and specifically I've given some thought with respect to what you said last meeting, Robin, with respect to the fact that this is an extension of a existing non-conforming use. And I do think that is an important consideration. And, you know, I guess with respect, there's several things they're asking. The one, I guess the issue that I have personally is that the request for the FAR is substantial. It's 18.75%. And given that,
I'm sorry?
I calculate 18.75, and anything that, as I understand, that's 15% or over is considered substantial. So I guess the way I think of it, because even though the applicants are lovely people and they're extremely sympathetic, this is a variance that runs with the land. So we have to really put our blinders on in terms of how sympathetic the applicant is. The way I'm kind of thinking is, I'm okay with this application except for the substantial variance for the FAR. And if they could get it to less than 15%, then I'd have no issue. But as a matter of policy, of precedent, I don't think we should be giving variances that are substantial when you have a pre-existing non-conforming use. So that's where I am.
Okay, Doug, Meg, or Abby, do you have any thoughts on this? Want to say, something you want to discuss about this?
I thought about what you said, Robin, about generally the reason why you have a variance, you make it difficult to expand a non-conforming use, is that the intent is that at some point the village would prefer that things go back to a conforming use. However, I thought about that in this situation. I don't think that by adding the additional bedrooms is increasing the likelihood that this is going to ever become a single family. It isn't as though by doing this, it's a perfectly fine two-family. It's because for years it's been that way. It's plenty of room already. If the applicant is not successful in getting this variance, I don't see that there's a great chance that this is going to then turn into a single family or be sold and knocked down, because it's a perfectly good two-family, which is very popular in the village. I don't have a problem of just adding some bedrooms to this pre-existing non-conforming use, especially when I look at the neighbors' letters, that their neighbors don't have any problem with it being a two-family and getting a little bit larger. And in terms of the FAR, I think that's a good point, Greta. However, I do consider the FAR in terms of where the addition is going. If it's in some way sticking out so it looks much larger than the other homes on the street, I think that has more weight for me. But since it's tucked in behind the second floor that faces the street, the addition is tucked in behind it. It doesn't have a great difference when you look head on at the building. Yes, when you go around the side, you would see a little bit more building, but again, to me, it's not as obtrusive because of the way it's tucked in there. So I don't have a problem granting this variance for this and the FAR variance.
Okay.
I would just counter that it really won't take a lot for the applicant to adjust and make this, FAR below 15%. And in terms of precedent, it's a better policy in terms of precedent. And it's not going to be hard for the applicant to make adjustments, because it is a small amount that's making it a substantial. So, I certainly think there are a lot of reasons, and that's why why I'd agree to give it a variance, because there are a lot of good reasons why this property would benefit from a variance. But again, in terms of precedent, I don't think it's a good policy. But so
Okay, Abby, did you have something you wanted to say? You looked like you were going to say something.
I was just going to agree with Meg. I think this is pretty reasonable given the circumstances, and it doesn't seem like this is going to turn back to a single family anytime soon. I'm also thinking about I mean, this village is chock full of non-conforming multifamilies, and I think it's just part of the neighborhood character over. I wouldn't want to restrict them based on that. So
okay, Doug. Okay, Doug, did you have any thoughts?
Right now, I'm straddling right on the fence.
Okay.
And I'll be very honest. One, yeah, the FAR is somewhat high. Two, it is tucked behind, so you won't see it unless you go around the other side. 3, I don't want to penalize a family for buying a place that they need to add additional space for them to be comfortable in. It's, my position is that it's a tough decision to make because it will set a precedent as far as other non-conforming uses expanding out. But, I don't want to see families leave our community because they don't have the right to expand their property to support their family. And so, that's why I'm sitting right on the fence. And I'll be honest, I'll play it by ear on the vote. I'd rather lean towards the family. I kind of agree with what Meg said. I kind of agree with what Abby said, but I'm also looking at the impact on future non-conforming uses in the village. So, what I don't want to see our village come to is where houses are getting expanded to the point where they're almost touching the other homes. So, that's kind of like where I'm sitting on that. So,
Robin, could I speak to that? I know you might want to speak and I already spoke, but could I just speak to what Doug said?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then I'll speak. That's fine. Go ahead, Meg.
So Doug, I think that's a really good thought about what kind of precedent we might be setting. But I do think that we would think of each one individually. So if we had another 2-family home that was situated similarly, similar request for FAR, similar tucked in of the space that was going to be expanded upon, yes, we would have a hard time not granting that variance as well. But I don't see it as a broader precedent that we're setting, that all homes, if we get one that wanted to make the FAR just as large, but it really was going to change the way it looked from the street, or was really going to bring it so much closer to another building, then this precedent would not hold. We would have every right to say, no, that one has other aspects to it, and I can't see granting the FAR for that home. So I think it's a great thought to think about what kind of precedent you're setting, but I do think that it's an individual home and the individual aspects of this house. For me, this FAR is okay. And so I feel comfortable with that I'm not saying all homes get to be that big.
No, Meg, excuse me, Robin. I am really leaning toward the applicant and granting the application. Okay. But just sitting in the back of my mind is the thought that, if we start in that particular position and we have a very similar application to what we have before us, what are we going to do? Because, we have to judge each application as to its uniqueness to the area. But if you have something that is extremely similar, that is where, I'm kind of caught. But as I said, I'm leaning towards accepting the application as is, because I don't want to see these people leave. I don't want to see them have to sell their home. Okay. And they did try to do the best to hide it from the front of the building. And I understand that. And they do need the space because of the kids they have. And I don't want to see anybody leave because of their children attending, the school system, and they don't, so I'm leaning towards the applicant, but it just sits into the back of my mind. If we get another one that is extremely similar to this one, how do we judge it, based on the precedent that we set? That's my only thought.
Okay, so here's my thought. I actually really have a strong belief in what I said last week, which to me, in all the time I've been on the board, we have never granted a variance for a non-conforming use that was as large as this entirety, that was going to really expand a building, or, in this way. The couple of things. Second, I do think that I do agree this family is very appealing. Their rationale and their reasons for doing so are very appealing. And I don't want to have them leave the village either. But to me, we have a job, and our job is based on the findings and the code. And what we're doing as a whole, and I have a problem with granting it. With respect to the FAR, the board has never said that 15% is substantial. I know that there is case law, but I do not think we are bound by that. We can decide what we think is substantial, guided by case law. It is not statutory. I'm not even sure it's a Court of Appeals decision. I don't believe it is. I just think there's case law that says 15% is substantial. We have never, ever taken the position that 15% is substantial. So I see no reason for board members to say, I don't think it's substantial given X, Y, and Z. Since it looks like you're probably going to grant it, I'm very concerned about precedent. I would want to make clear in the findings so that you can distinguish this, really lay out in the findings what is unique about this. It is the same physical size from the side where you can see that. It looks it's not bigger than any of the buildings in the neighborhood. Whatever other specifics you can to tie this. So if there is another similar application, it can be distinguished. I do, however, think that granting this much of a variance for an expansion is a precedent in the village. So does somebody want to make a motion to do whatever it is that somebody wants to make a motion to do? Keeping in mind that if
I do want to just
to keep in mind that if you're going to approve it, make it very clear why this one is with respect to the specifics.
Hey, Robin, on those lines, I do want to add one more specific thing to the circumstances that I think matter, which is this, this family has laid out a pretty clear case that this is not a case of them buying this house and then wanting to expand it, that unforeseen circumstances beyond their control really impacted their decision making. And I do feel like that is an important factor in this case. So I just want to add that in.
But there's nothing to add it to. I would suggest that somebody, Greta, I don't know how you're going to vote, Meg or Abby, certainly you two are definitely leaning towards granting it, make the motion and then consider all of the different findings so that when a draft resolution is prepared, it can include all of those findings that distinguish it. If you want to say this is not substantial because this is substantial nevertheless, whatever it is you want to say in your, but somebody should make a motion, please.
Before we make a motion, I would just like, Greta, you had mentioned that you would wish that the FAR was less. If we make a motion to grant the variance as the plans were submitted and not request that the FAR be less, would you be voting against the motion? You're on mute, Greta.
Yes, if it's as the plans as submitted, I will be voting against the motion.
Well, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to make a motion. Can we vote again can we make a different motion if it's struck down and make it a smaller FAR?
Well, certainly if you make a motion that, remember, we're not making a motion today because we're not.
Right. Okay, so my straw poll.
Meg, let me finish. So what you would be doing is, we take a poll, right? Everybody's leaning toward, or not everybody, two people, or maybe Doug. Doug is going to have to come, get off the fence, I think.
Yeah, Robin, I have to be honest. If I get off the fence, okay, I'm going to go that they need to reduce the FAR before I would consider saying yes.
Okay, so we've got 2 yeses as is, 2 yeses with a reduction in FAR, and I'm voting no. So I think that what we need is to, so the question is, and Bob, this is a question for you, can it be approved provided they can reduce the FAR to less, or should we wait to approve it until they submit revised plans, in which case we have to reopen the hearing again?
So,
Bob, question for you.
yeah, so I think that you can't give them a variance they don't want. So I don't think you can approve it with the condition that they reduce it. I think what you need to do is communicate, someone needs to communicate with them the discussion. And if they're willing to come in with an alternate plan, well, let me back up. If they want you to decide it on what's been presented, you decide it. But you would give them the opportunity to modify their application and continue the public hearing on that.
Okay, so we have to reopen it. It was closed. So, William, if you would please contact the applicant. Tell the applicant what's going on with respect to the FAR. Ask them if they can reduce it. If they can reduce it, then we will reopen the public hearing at the next meeting. Now, because we've now delayed them longer, and they clearly, if we're going to approve it, they're going to want to get building. I would suggest that board members right now, let's assume the FAR is reduced, really just to get this moving. And I would suggest one of you, think about the findings, recite the findings that you would want to be included in such a resolution so that we can get a draft resolution. And if it turns out that they're unwilling to reduce it and that we vote no on it, we vote no on it. That's fine. But I would say you should present the findings that you would want in there, assuming the FAR is reduced, have a draft resolution so we can vote at the next meeting one way or the other.
Okay, so if we are going to present findings, are this separate? Because we have the FAR and we also have the side yard and we also have the expansion of the non-conforming use. Is the findings for all of those?
And we also have parking.
But I thought that was already grandfathered in. It's been grandfathered in, so they don't require a variance for the parking, but thank you, Doug.
Right, because they're not expanding the number of units, it's just space and you don't. So Bob, do we need, they request, let's go back to Bob. Bob, they're requesting a variance for 3 different things. We can all do that in one and just recite, or do you think we need to have separate findings for each of them? Or for the non-conforming use separate from the other 2? Which one do you think?
I think you can move forward if you want on the other variances, but my suggestion is that because the FAR, they may want to change the FAR and that may change other things.
Oh, right.
That I would at least give them the opportunity for a dialogue before you start ruling on various aspects of their application.
That's a good point. So let's just, based on that, which is a good point, why don't we just wait till the next meeting, and assuming that they present something that we're satisfied with, or that those of you who are going to vote for it are satisfied with, and you're willing to approve it, we can then think about your findings between this meeting and the next meeting, so that in all cases like that, you can approve it. We can hopefully then maybe we can approve it at the next meeting. All right?
So
Should we vote to reopen?
Well, if the applicant doesn't want to change what they've submitted, then we don't need to vote to reopen. I don't think, because let's assume the applicant doesn't, well, you know what? Let's vote to reopen anyway. And then at the next meeting, we will give them the chance to either speak and say, we don't want to do anything and here's why. Because maybe they're going to want to say that. So maybe we should reopen, and at the next meeting, they can either say, yes, we don't want to do anything, and here's why, to make more argument as to why they think they shouldn't need to reduce the FAR, if that's how they feel, or 2, what they're willing to do with new plans. So let's reopen today for the next meeting.
I have a question. Why don't we wait to see what they say and then make a determination as to whether we want to reopen it next meeting for them to speak? Only because what if they say no?
Then we just close the public hearing next meeting and we're done. But they may, even if they don't want to amend their application, given what they've heard today, they may very well want to come in and explain to us why they think that the 18% is really, under these circumstances, whatever these circumstances are, not a big deal.
Okay.
Rather than, I don't know, I mean, I don't care either way. I don't care either way. I don't care either way, whichever way the rest of the board want to do. We can reopen it today for the next one, or we could just wait. But wait, I just want to ask Bob, here's another question. If we don't reopen it until next week, can it go on the agenda under public hearings, or do we have to do something different?
Well, no, it would go back, it would remain on the agenda under your closed public hearings unless you open it.
Right, but if this is my concern. If we don't reopen it till next week, and I'm sorry, next meeting, and it wasn't in the agenda as a public hearing. Is that a problem? Which is why I was thinking we might want to reopen it this week so it's ready and on the agenda for public hearing next week. If that's not a problem, then we can wait till next meeting to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. As long as it's carried on your agenda, it's still a live application. If you want to open the hearing, reopen the hearing to hear more from the applicant or someone who's opposed to the applicant, that's within your discretion as a board.
And we can do that even though it's not on the agenda ahead of time.
If as long as it remains on the agenda as an item, not necessarily as a public hearing, it's still a live application that you're carrying from meeting to meeting.
Fine. So then we don't need to reopen it until the next meeting.
But I think you should communicate with the applicant, or William should communicate with the applicant and let them know that this is going to be the issue and they should be here. I mean, I assume no one's here from the applicant tonight.
No, the applicant is on.
Oh, the applicant is on, so we could reopen the public hearing today. Board members, you want to reopen the public hearing today?
I'll make
That
the
makes sense. So
motion.
we could hear from the
Well,
applicant.
see if everyone does. Yes, okay. You want to make the motion, Doug, to reopen?
I make a motion, we reopen.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, Doug, yes. Meg, yeah, Meg,
Yes.
Greta,
Yes.
Abby.
Yes.
I'm happy to reopen the public hearing as well. So I said yes for you, Doug, but I guess you should formally say yes. So we reopen the public hearing. Doug?
Yes.
Okay, so the public hearing, why don't we, okay, well then we are reopening the public hearing right now on application 5/8/2020 600 Lorraine Street. If the applicant is here and would like to speak to either say they will consider it, say they won't consider it, or whatever else they want to say about their application, please go ahead.
Good evening. How you doing? Sorry,
Good.
the lighting is a little crazy here. So I guess, and I listened to everybody's commentary here. I guess what I was unclear on is what percentage would be acceptable for the FAR?
15% is what Greta was referring to.
15%.
So if your FAR was 15% or 14.9, right, 15%, you're okay with 15%, Greta and Doug? Or does it have to be under 15%? Remember, we've never said, the board has never said that 15% is substantial. Never come down with that. We have never
Yeah,
said a
that
precedent.
may be true, but when I it's case law, and that's good enough for me.
I understand
Regardless
that.
of,
I'm not arguing with you. I just wanted to say that. So
okay.
are you, great? So getting back to my question, Greta and Doug, are you saying 15% or does it have to be under 15%? I just want to know so that Mr. Taylor knows.
I
Yeah,
think
it should
it's
be,
under
it should be under, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, so Mr. Taylor, there's your answer, under 15%. So 14.9%, for example, as long as your FAR increase was only 14.9%, they are, is what they're saying, or something like that.
Mhm.
Okay. So obviously I'm going to have the conversation with the architect and see what those plans might look like. The reason why 18%, and we weren't trying to shoot for a number as far as percentage is concerned, it's just for ease of construction, just putting the current construction on top of that part of the house, just go up and put a roof on top of it. So that's where you ended up with the number of 18% based on the size of that back part of the house. So now you're talking about trying to pull in, I don't know what it ends up being, 100 square feet somewhere, and changing the roof line in the back, or whatever it is, in order to try to do that. Again, I got to speak to the architect, and then again, price wise, how much does that increase the cost to reduce the size of the addition? So
Right. So, okay, anybody else want to ask him, Mr. Taylor, something, or say something to him before we adjourn the public hearing to the next meeting? Greta, did you want to say something, Greta? Sorry.
No.
No. Okay, so I guess, Mr. Taylor, then you'll come back. We'll adjourn the public hearing to the next meeting. and you'll come back and you'll tell us what you found, what you're.
Yep, I definitely will. I appreciate it.
Madam
thank
Chair,
you.
just so you know, there's someone from the public who wishes to speak.
Oh, okay, so public, please speak.
Yes. I wish you the best, Mr. Taylor. I hope this board that is sitting on the fence, if Mr. Taylor comes in and unfortunately the making the adjustment to the size of the variance is prohibitive, might once again look at what the original application is. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you. Okay, so this application is adjourned to the next meeting. We will continue, the public hearing is adjourned to the next meeting. We will continue the public hearing at the next meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next application, next closed application is 37 SP 2018, One Station Plaza, a renewal of the provision in the special permit to allow for outdoor seating. Thoughts, discussion, anybody? Board members? No one else has anything to say. I'll start. I think
No,
it's
no,
fine.
I'm sorry. I thought that we had discussed this at a little bit last time, and we were all pretty much in agreement with not okaying music, outdoor music, or amplified sound outside, but otherwise saw no reason, since there had been no new complaints, not to extend the permit for the outdoor dining.
Wait, we want, did you say not extend the permit for the outdoor dining?
No, to extend, no, extend. There was no reason not to.
Oh, no reason not to. Yes, I agree. I think that's what we discussed, but we didn't actually say that we needed a, ask either vote or tell the attorney to, apparently they went back and listened, didn't tell the attorney or ask the attorney to prepare a resolution. So, which is why it's here again. If that's what everybody feels, agrees with what Meg just said, then we'll ask the village to prepare a resolution, which says that based on the same conditions as original and provided, could you repeat that, Meg, the condition on the outdoor music? We had it in there before. I
No,
think
they had requested it. That was not in the permit. So the same restrictions on music and the amplified sound should stay within but that's already what's written in the one that we had okayed last. It's not making any changes at all to the last special permit.
Right. Okay. So
So-
that's what we,
Just to be clear, it's the same, all the same conditions as the last permit.
right.
Correct.
It's not the permit itself. The permit is still in effect. It was that there was a provision in the permit that the outdoor seating was only for a limited amount of time because we didn't know what it would be like. Since nobody's complained and it's apparently worked okay, we would just renew that provision in the permit, however that works.
Yeah, there is the non-music provision in there.
Yep.
Okay, as long as that's in there, I don't have an issue.
Okay. So that was simple. The next one is, the next application is 11 SP 2020, 308 Mamaroneck Avenue for Barkila Inc. for a restaurant. I also thought we discussed this at the last meeting.
But did we vote? Do we need to vote on this?
We didn't vote. We didn't even ask for a draft resolution. We just discussed it a little
Yeah,
bit.
I thought we
If
just
you
were
recall,
supposed to have I thought we.
So should we vote on it now?
we could vote on this one now if you want. We could say that it would be, we have to give it based on our findings. So we're okay with it that, based on for the special permit that we think it would be fine. It's in an existing space.
Oh, okay, I say, I understand. We're all in agreement. We're not gonna officially vote until the next meeting when we see the resolution. I understand. Okay, that's fine.
But I
Got
think we're all in favor of it. So we'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
And with no additional conditions again, because there was a special permit here. So whatever the conditions for that special permit, we continue
Wait,
with.
are we saying two things? Robin, are you saying we should vote without the document in front of us?
No.
I know I objected with outdoor music, amplified outdoor music on that.
Oh, you want to have no amplified outdoor music, but we don't.
No, No amplified outdoor music.
Yeah, I don't think we're okaying anything. They asked for something about what the village allows them to do on the sidewalk, which we don't have any jurisdiction over. So
Yeah, and I would not like
Any of us.
I would not like to do anything about it. There haven't been
Well,
complaints
wait.
about the prior ones.
We just discussed a resolution for outdoor seating, and we specifically said no outdoor amplified music. So
But we're not,
I think, while I understand, I want to be consistent. I said before at 308 Mamaroneck Avenue, that is in the heart of the village. There are young school kids that live upstairs and live around in that area. And the last thing they need to do is lose sleep because of amplified music.
we have previously said that we are not approving a permit, anything having to do with the outside. We had previously said, when this has come up on other applications, that it is not within our jurisdiction and we really should not, because that we shouldn't tell the village or tell the applicant how to operate on the outside when the village approves it. And maybe that we need to go, maybe if the board wants to, the board can say to the village manager, you know, we don't think you should approve any of these, but we didn't want to raise that as a condition. We haven't done it on any other application in the where we are not approving an outside area. So
can I just say, Doug, the difference here is that the one at Metro North Station was not a village sidewalk. So we felt we had a little bit different, more ability to give conditions to what was outside. This one is on the sidewalk of the village, and so it's outside. But you don't agree. That's, to me, that's the distinction between these two applications.
well, it's more than that.
I understand. I thoroughly understand. Okay, but I remember the complaints about One Station Plaza with the music going out and affecting residential neighborhoods, and it ended up getting shut down. The fact of the matter is, while I understand that the restaurants want to put things outside, I also understand that the noise level is beyond what it should be. Okay, and the village has no means or methods to make a determination if it's violating the noise ordinance. And I can tell you right now, there is no one certified with a noise level meter. The village does not even own one. So the fact of the matter is, if it's going to go without it saying no amplified music, I am not voting for this application.
Doug,
Okay.
you have, wait, I have a question for Doug. You haven't said that on any other application that's on Mamaroneck Avenue. We've approved several this year alone. Why is it that you are, and how are you distinguishing this one from all the other Mamaroneck Avenue applications that would that would say, okay, we can do it here, even though we didn't do it down the block and we didn't do it across the street, but this one is different.
Roaster Cafe, I can't vote on. Okay?
I'm not
Roaster
talking about,
Cafe-
I'm not talking about today's application. Sorry, Doug. I'm not talking about what's before us now. We have, over the past year, given
And what
them.
did I say about Nona Corona? What did I say? No amplified music outside. That's what I said.
That was on their terrace. They had,
It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter. On their terrace, on the street, anywhere else. Okay, we do not need to have amplified music outside. And I don't care what the village says. Okay, the village can give the store away. And that's, to me, that's what happened. But I remember the music that came out of that place. It got to the point where I could hear that music, and the former mayor of this village could hear that music at his house. And he is blocks and blocks and blocks away. Seriously, I think somewhere along the line, whether the village is going to do it or we have to do it as a zoning board, we need to keep this village the friendly village and the quiet village. We don't need to return to where we were way back when. I've been in this village from when I was a teenager. As a matter of fact, I used to come to this village. Why? Because music can blast all over the place and nobody did anything about it. And then all of a sudden they cleaned it up. I got married here. I've lived here. I've been here for a long, 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 long time. Okay. it was nice and quiet until somebody turned around and said, we're going to allow amplified music going on in the village. And the quietness disappeared. I'm concerned with the residents who live on that avenue who have to tolerate amplified music. And this village does not even have a means to enforce the noise ordinance because they do not have a noise meter and they don't have anyone certified to do it. This is my problem.
Okay, so for my concern here is,
Looked at,
Go ahead, Meg.
we looked at the special permit that, for the past tenants. It talked about how small the music band had to be, that it had to be acoustic. And we had asked the applicant, it was okay if we said that you had to close doors and windows when you were playing music at 10 p.m. And they had agreed to that. So that would be a condition.
That was indoor, Meg. That was
I understand,
indoor.
Doug, I understand. But I'm moving on to the condition I would like to see that I believe we have the jurisdiction to put in there. And it was to pick up the conditions that were in the special permit for the previous tenant, in terms of the size of the band that could play, the fact that it had to be acoustic music, and that if there's any music or any amplified sound, the doors and windows must close at 10 p.m. So I'm sorry, Doug, it doesn't address what you're suggesting, but this is something I thought we had all agreed upon.
we do. So I don't think there's an issue here. I don't think the board members would disagree that the conditions for this special permit should be the same as the prior conditions on the prior operator of a restaurant here. It should be the same conditions we do. I think we discussed that and we agree. Should be subject to all the same conditions with respect to whatever it was. Should be all the same conditions because it's the same, in a sense, it's just a different restaurant, but it's the same conditions and there's no reason to change any of those conditions. Yes. So and that includes all the noise related.
I don't think, Robin, though, that the conditions had about closing the windows and doors at 10.
Oh, you don't? I don't have it in front of me, so I'm sorry, I don't know.
Right,
If they
so
don't, then we can add
and the
those.
applicant had agreed to that. So they agreed to all the previous conditions plus closing the windows and doors at 10.
Okay,
And-
so then that would be it. Then we would add that. Now,
Music? Did
agree.
they-
Now going to Doug's question, to me, I do not think we should limit. We're not telling them what they can or can't do on the outside. We haven't done it on any other application except where they need something from us with respect to that outdoor location, like Nona Corolla, because it has space on that outdoor area that we give a special permit to, so we could control it. And similarly with One Station Plaza, we could, since we have to give a special permit, they don't otherwise have any right to do it, we could control it. We have never previously done that with respect to any other restaurant on the avenue where the only outdoor space and we have done it also with respect to when they've got a backyard, right? And they've got, we've said the same thing with respect to music in the rear of the, on their property. We have never yet before said anything about limiting something on the public sidewalk, and I would be leery to do it here when it hasn't been done for any other application before. And there's nothing, nobody raised any special concerns about this. I don't see any reason that we should treat this one differently, even assuming we have some right to say that, which we might be able to, because we might be able to say, since we're giving them a special permit, we could say a condition of our special permit is they don't do that. But I don't see, since there was no issue, nobody raised concerns about noise out here, I would not want to say that we need to do something different on this outdoors that we haven't done, that we condition our special permit on limiting the outdoor space here when we haven't done it on the sidewalk for anybody else.
Okay, but we have permitted every restaurant to extend their restaurant out to the middle of almost to the middle of Mamaroneck Avenue. That is a restaurant extension. Since the COVID-19, they are having people outside. I think that we need to consider that as a board, because if you extend a restaurant out to the parking areas, which you go out there on Mamaroneck Avenue and you look, that is where they are. That is a restaurant extension. It's not the sidewalk. It's not anything else. It's a restaurant extension. And at that particular point in time, I think we have jurisdiction to restrict to non-amplified music.
We're not giving any approval for anything in the public way, whether it's in the street or on the sidewalk, it's in the public way. It was not, none of that expansion was done pursuant to anything approved by this board. It was done pursuant to approvals by the Board of Trustees. And to me, that's very different. Bob, let me get a legal answer on this. Do you have any thoughts? If you don't, that's fine, because you haven't, may not be.
I honestly haven't had any time to think about this or to, I'm not fully sure I understand this application in the sense of this is a special permit application for a restaurant, not for this has nothing to do with outdoor on the
Nothing.
street dining.
Correct.
Right?
It's just
Okay.
that the applicant had asked if they could continue to have concerts on the sidewalk as the previous tenant did. So that's why it came up, because they put it in their application. And I agree with Robin that that's not a part of what we're considering. That's relationship with the village.
So the issue is whether you can, in deciding a special permit for a restaurant, can regulate activity on the sidewalk?
That is essentially the question. I think we probably could technically, because it's the whole operation of the restaurant, but I wouldn't want to, even if we could. So because we haven't done it for anyone else, and there's been no issues raised with the noise here. But the first question would be, could we even do that? Which I think we could, but I don't know.
It's not something I can answer off the top of my head, but my inclination is that you can't, that the village board decides what's permissible and what's not on the public sidewalks. It's not a function of the special permit that you're granting, but I can come back next month with an answer for you.
Robert, the application put in a request for it, for us to view in their special permit. So if they put the request in for us to view it, we have the right to put restrictions on it.
Well, respectfully, Doug, I disagree with that.
Well,
if they asked you, if they said in their application that they'd like to, that they'd like to have dancing on the street,
what they're doing.
It doesn't give you jurisdiction over the street, what happens on the street, I don't think.
Okay, but we have a law on the books that cannot be enforced.
Well, that's a policy issue that you may wish to raise with the Board of Trustees,
Okay.
but I'm still.
Regardless of anything, Nona Corolla, whether it be on their patio or external to their patio, the music is outdoor. This is the same, outdoor. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter whether it's on a private patio or it's on a public street. It is out of doors. Remember the issues we had with Molly Spillane and the regatta.
Well, as
Okay.
I said, it's not something I can give you a definitive answer on tonight, but I'm inclined to think that your jurisdiction is limited to the property, not the public street.
Where does the
Okay.
property extend to?
The-
How far out does the deed to the property extend to? Does it extend out? As far as I know, it extends well beyond the face of the building.
No.
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know, but I
They
doubt it.
don't own it. The village owns the public sidewalk. The property owner doesn't own the public sidewalk.
The village owns the public side, the property owner is responsible for cleaning it.
That's not the same
That's-
thing.
That's a function
All
of the
right, well,
code.
I can tell you what. I already know my position, so you guys can make a determination on what you guys want to do with it. I already know how I'm voting on this application.
Okay, for the rest of us, I would think we, as we discussed already, approve it, subject to all the same conditions that were in the prior application, with the addition of the close their windows and doors at 10 o'clock.
And
Agree.
if they're playing music or have any
Right.
amplified sound.
Well, I thought we want no amplified sound inside at all. Oh, no amplified music. I mean, they can have non-amplified. Yes, you're right. Amplified sound. They have records and radio on. Correct. I'm sorry. You are
Or
correct. Matt.
karaoke or
Yeah, whatever.
a speech person or something.
Right, exactly. No, you're right. So is that okay? Does that what most the rest of you agree with?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what we would want, a resolution that says that we will we will vote on it at the next meeting when we have the resolution.
Same conditions as last time.
With the addition of the one Meg mentioned about closing their doors and windows at 10 o'clock if they are having any amplified, any music, period, even if they have
Any
none.
music or
Any music.
any amplified sound, any acoustic music or any amplification of any sound.
Okay.
Great.
I have a problem. The problem is you're telling him, if you have it inside, you got to shut the windows. But if you have it outside, you can do whatever the heck you want.
I don't think we're telling them anything. We're telling them what we're giving the special permit. The village is telling them something else. If this is an issue for the village, then that's something that, and if we want to raise it, that's up, we could, or you can raise it, Doug. But I think that's something for the trustees and or the village manager to consider when they're granting whatever they're granting.